Hello, Miss Jasmine.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. The exam. I was thinking this was Tuesday, Thursday. It's Monday and Wednesday. So the exam is it'll be on Blackboard, and hopefully it'll be ready Wednesday. And so if we can just meet in class Wednesday, and then I'll let you go, and you can just go to the testing center and take it. Or if you have a laptop, you can bring it, and I'll give you the password.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer that. Maybe just bring my laptop.
Okay.
I think it's
So
easier.
we've only got it's April now, and we've got one, two, three, four classes left, right?
I think so.
Four or five. So I need. Uh, are you done with your project? Have you about got it done?
I think I just have one more thing to do. I just have to
Okay.
like put it all together.
Yeah, but let's get that turned in your final project and make a PowerPoint presentation because you need to present it in class for me. And we'll try to do that. We'll let you present it the last day of class. If that's okay with
Okay.
you. And so everybody online, get your projects in to me as soon as possible. We're almost out of time for class. Okay. Uh, your exam will be ready to go on Wednesday. It will be on Blackboard, so you can go to your testing center and take it. I can, I'll get it graded. We'll go from there. The So today, I've pretty much covered most of everything I've wanted, or just about everything I wanted to cover. We've talked about reproduction. We've talked about forage management. We spent a lot of time on nutrition, genetics, economics, health, production goals. Uh, so I've given you, we kind of did an overview of everything like that. So I really don't know what else to go over. I mean, I can come up with stuff. Don't get me wrong. Usually it takes me all semester and I don't get through all this stuff. But due to the great students I've had this semester, we've zipped right on along and got through it. Uh, so, and that's not knocking my other students. It's just when you got a big, more students, we get a lot of questions, and that's good. There's a lot of feedback and a lot of questions, and that's fine. And I appreciate that too. So we just make adjustments. So I just kept throwing more stuff at you this semester. Uh, so what I thought we would do today is, you know, do a little review for the exam, and then Wednesday we'll take the exam, and then next week we'll okay. So the heading on your exam will be wrong. It will be uh, I think it'll say like forage management and reproduction. I forgot to take that off uh, and put reproduction and genetics on there because it was an exam from a couple years ago, and uh, and I used some other exams and I kind of combined the questions and made up some more questions for it and deleted other questions. But so don't get excited if you see forage management and reproduction on there. There's not any forage management questions on So let's talk about reproduction to begin with. Uh, what are some of what are some name three reproduction or sex organs of the female?
Can you repeat the question? You're breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry. Can you name three sex organs of the female?
The ovaries, the uterus, and the cervix.
Okay. Um, Now this is a little bit harder. Name three accessory sex organs of the bull. Remember those. Now, accessory organs aren't going to be the penis and the testes. It's going to be those other glands that we talked about that add fluid to the semen or to the sperm for the semen to flow. You remember what some of those were?
The prostate gland,
Okay.
the Cowper's gland, and the seminal vesicle.
Okay. Good. Um, what's the main hormone produced by the testes?
Testosterone.
And what's the purpose of that? Give me a couple functions of the testosterone.
Development of the male reproductive tract
Okay.
and normal sperm formation.
Okay. A couple others are uh, development of secondary sex characteristics. You know how bulls look very masculine, heavy muscled, a little cresty on the neck. Uh, and then it increases muscular and skeletal growth as well. Now, why do we do breeding soundness exams on males prior to the breeding season?
To make sure they're fertile.
Okay. Um, well, what it's going to do is not so much to make sure they're fertile, you're on the right track, but it's to detect obvious fertility problems. We're going to eliminate the obvious problems. We may not eliminate some of all the problems, but we're going to eliminate the obvious ones. So hopefully that's going to increase our chances of having a good baby. We talked a lot about scrotal circumference. What's the reason? Why is scrotal circumference important?
The bigger the circumference, the more testosterone they're going to produce.
Okay, you're right. That's one of them. What's the other one?
The bull's daughters will reach puberty faster.
I think you're going to ace this exam the way things are going. Uh, Now, when we look at when we take a that's correct. When we take a sample of semen, we collect a sample of semen, and we're checking the sperm. What's the four things we check for? Do you remember?
Check to see if there's any abnormalities in it, like the tail of the sperm and the head of the sperm.
Okay. Uh, I was looking for another question. Okay, we check morphology. That's one of them. What else do we check for?
I can't remember.
The concentration of sperm, the volume of sperm, and the concentration, the volume, and the motility. How mobile are they? Are they swimming correctly? All right. Remember we talked about scrotal circumference and size is important. Do you
Yes.
remember the size, the minimum size for yearling bulls? The circumference of the scrotum?
32 centimeters.
Correct. Did we, and for mature bulls, did we give you a number on that one?
No, I didn't get a number for that one.
34. 32 for yearlings, 34 for mature bulls. All right, let's swap. Let's think about the female for a little bit. The ovary produces two structures, and those structures produce hormones, right?
Yes.
What's the two structures and what's the hormones that they produce?
The would the corpus luteum be one?
Yep.
And that produces
What hormone does
progesterone.
the corpus luteum produce?
Progesterone.
Okay. And what's the other structure?
The ovaries produce estrogen.
Okay, but what's the structure that produces estrogen?
I can't remember.
Follicle.
Okay.
So the ovary produces two structures: the corpus luteum, which produces progesterone, and the follicle. And that's the follicle, and that's the egg, right? Or it has it's a blister. It feels like a blister if you feel it, if you palpate it. The follicle and that cumulus mass around, around that egg, around the oocyte, and all those cells around the oocyte, the cumulus mass, it's all called the follicle. And that produces estrogen. Okay? What's the hormone released by the hypothalamus that regulates the hormones of the pituitary gland, the anterior pituitary
GnRH.
gland? Okay? And what, okay, follicle stimulation hormones released from what gland?
The pituitary gland.
Okay, and what we know that follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, it's responsible for the recruitment, the growth and the maturation of the follicle, which is located where?
In
Where's the
the
follicle?
ovary.
Okay,
Ovary.
that's correct. What about the luteinizing hormone? Where is it produced from?
Pituitary gland.
And what does it do?
Causes the follicle to be released from the ovary.
Okay, what else does it do? Luteinizing. It causes the rupture of the follicle, and then what happens after the follicle ruptures? What forms there in that ruptured area?
The the corpus luteum.
Exactly. So the LH causes the follicle to rupture, and then it causes the development or causes the growth and the development of the corpus luteum after ovulation. And where's that structure formed?
On the ovary.
Okay. And what hormone does the corpus luteum produce?
Progesterone.
Okay. Now, tell me two functions of progesterone.
It prepares the uterus for pregnancy and it maintains the pregnancy.
Good job. Now, if the female does not become pregnant, it's considered a failure, and the cycle starts all over again, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what hormone is responsible for the regression of the corpus luteum, and where is it produced or released?
Prostaglandin and it's produced by the uterus.
Man alive, you're doing great. You don't get 100 on this exam, I'm going to be worried about you. Now here's a big one. Estrous synchronization revolves around three hormones. Name the hormones and explain how they work on the animal. So what are the three hormones we use in estrous synchronization?
GnRH, prostaglandin, and
Okay. Now
progesterone.
what does GnRH do?
Regulates the release of LH.
Okay. So it causes a surge of LH that causes ovulation and the formation of the corpus luteum. Right?
Yes.
Okay. What's the other hormones? Or what do they do?
Prostaglandin that destroys the CL, and then progesterone that prepares the uterus for pregnancy and maintains pregnancy.
Okay. You're right with the progesterone, and you're right with the functions of progesterone. But when we use progesterone in a synchronization regime or regimen, what it does, it causes a high level of progesterone in the female system, even after the CL's gone. And then when we remove that source of progesterone, estrus or heat will occur 2 to 3 days after it's removed. So we're kind of creating a false corpus luteum. Theoretically. And if a cow's not, if she's still in estrus, or a heifer has not reached puberty yet, that progesterone will prime her up. You've got to kind of have that progesterone priming, kind of like that car that runs out of gas. You got to put some gas in the carburetor to prime it up, right?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, let's let's talk about some genetics. And I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm going to give you a chart, okay? I'm going to give you 3 bulls, and I'm going to give you EPDs on those bulls. And I'm going to give you the breed average, okay? And then I'm going to ask you several questions regarding those bulls and their EPDs. All right. So, uh, so I'm going to ask you, like, looking at these EPDs, and this is from another exam. Okay, it'd be similar questions, but it'd be in probably different numbers. So we'll just go back to this old exam. So looking at these EPDs, if I were to ask you which bull would sire the heaviest calf at birth, which one would you choose? Which one would you expect to sire the heaviest calf at birth?
Bull B.
Okay. Uh, which bull would you expect to have the heaviest calves at weaning time?
Bull B.
Which bull would you expect to have the heaviest calves at when those calves are a year old?
B.
Which bull do you think would have the best carcass traits?
C.
Okay. Which bull, if you were retaining replacement heifers and you wanted to add more milk production to your cow herd, which bull would you choose? Just looking at that one trait.
A.
Okay. If you had a herd of cows and they were mature cows and you're selling all your calves at weaning time, you're not worried about breeding virgin heifers to them. You're not, you just sell all your calves at weaning time and they're mature cows. They've had at least 2 calves. Which bull would you choose and why?
Bull B because they have a heavier weaning weight.
Okay. Uh, if you were breeding a group of virgin heifers, which bull would you choose and why?
Bull A because it has a smaller birth weight.
Okay. If you had a herd of cows and you keep back some of your replacement heifers and you graze out your steers and then you send them to a feedlot to finish off uh, at the feedlot and you sell them directly to a packer, which bull would you use on your mature cows
Bull
and
C
why?
because it has better carcass traits.
Okay. The bull B has higher growth rates, weaning and yearling.
But C has better carcass traits, and you could get that buyer to come back again.
All right. Uh, and bull C, if you're needing to add milk to your replacement heifers, it's pretty, it's got a lot more milk than bull B does.
Yes.
I'm not going to disagree. I'm just making sure you understand these EPDs and playing devil's advocate to you. Let me see what other questions I can ask. I'm making these questions up from the top of my head, okay? But they're going to be similar questions. They may be the same questions I'm asking you. I'm just kind of making them up, looking at them. Uh, for your scenario, okay, for what you're doing for your project, which of these three bulls would you breed to, and why?
Probably bull B because of the higher weaning weight, and that's when I'd be selling them.
Okay. Uh, Let me ask you this. Again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. Okay. In your scenario, I know you've got mature cows. You're not keeping any replacements. How much time are you going to be able to sit there and calve those cows out, or are you going to have somebody else working for you going through those cows, or are you going to work and go through those cows before and after work?
Well, I guess when you consider that, I guess bull C would probably be better.
I'm not going to tell you you're right or wrong. The answer is it depends. I just want you to make it up. I mean, I want you to be able to justify it. Okay? You've got mature cows. Theoretically, since they've had a couple to three calves, you should be okay with bull B. But knowing that those calves are going to be bigger at birth, and we know birth weight is associated with is associated with dystocia problems. Uh, you may have you're going to be challenging those cows a little bit. So you know that you may have to pull a few calves. Okay, so but depending on your situation, if you have somebody there that can go through those cows for you while you're at work and making the big money, you can pay somebody, right? The bull bee may work for you. If you don't have somebody, but you work close to where your cows are, you can go swing through them before work. Swing, maybe take off at lunchtime and drive through them, and come back after work and drive through them. Come back before bed and go through them. You don't. It depends on what your situation is. It's not. It doesn't make it wrong or make it right. You just got to think about your resources and your time and your situation. You could use that bull and you may not have to pull a calf, but next year you may have to. And you may be out, you want to be a vet, you may be out on call doing C sections and putting in uteruses. And you go back and look through your cows and oops, I didn't get through here quick enough. I've got a dead cow. Or I've got a cow that's with a calf hanging out of it. It's dead. Each, or you say, okay, I've got somebody to go through my cows for me. Even with the best of care, you're still going to lose cows. You may not lose them every year. It all depends on your numbers. The more numbers you have, chances are highly you're going to lose one or two, or three or four. So, you know, even the best of care, you're still going to lose animals. Please understand that. I had 400 cows at Stewart Landing Cattle Company. That's a lot of cows. And I laid with those cows every day. I mean, 7 days a week. And I worked hard, and I still lost 15, 10 to 15 calves every year, and a couple, 3 cows. Now, I didn't have the best facilities to calve in. They were in big boundaries. One boundary was 300, was a couple of hundred acres. It was rough. It was growed up. I rode a horse through it, and I finally figured out where they like to go off and hide and have their calves. But every once in a while, a cow will go off somewhere else and have a calf, and it'd show up with the calf. And sometimes they didn't show up, and I had to go ride that boundary and try to figure out where she was. And sometimes they were alive, and sometimes they weren't. Lost them to coyotes, lost them to buzzards, we lost them freak accidents. It happens. Uh, you know, now, you know, the guy that fed for me, he would count those cows every morning. Every time he went and fed, he'd count those cows. And he would tell me, he said, Dwayne, he'd get hold of me somehow. He'd run me down. He'd say, Dwayne, all the cows were in on this boundary and this boundary, but 3 cows didn't come, or so many cows didn't come in. But, you know, reality, when those cows start popping out, you can't go with how many cows come in to feed, because those cows will babysit each other's calves. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We'll come in, the tractor will go in to feed, and the majority of those cows will come in to eat. But not all of them will. There'll be 4 or 5 cows stay back, and there'll be a bunch of calves with them. Then the next day, those cows may come in to eat, and 3 or 4 other cows stay back. It's like they have a babysitting service. As long as a couple cows are back with a bunch of those calves, so even though all those cows, you count the cows when they come in to eat, you still need to count those cows back there babysitting. And he didn't do that. And I'm not knocking him. The way that those boundaries were set up, he couldn't see them. It wasn't, his rough country. Now, we did have one boundary we calved out on was a hayfield, and it was fairly clear. You could see everything. That was easy to go through. But that was the only thing. That was the only one. Man, it was mountainous. It was rough, and it was challenging. So, you know, just realize, if you have animals, they're going to die. Sometimes they'll get struck by lightning. Sometimes they'll eat poisonous plants. Sometimes, and I'm not kidding you, this happened. I would go up there in the fall, check out cows, calves. This farm I managed, just the part I managed alone was 12,000 acres. I didn't go over those. I didn't go count cows every day. We had other things to do. You go salt them every week. Ride the four-wheeler around when you get to ride around to, and count the cows that come in to salt. Look for something wrong. 'Cause they were running on all that land, and we didn't have division fences up. We turned them out. We gathered them up in the fall, and we hoped for the best. We kept salt out there. We went through there and tried to make sure nothing was wrong or spot stuff wrong. But you couldn't see your cows every day, and even or every week, you couldn't get a good solid count on all your cattle. Uh, and there were times. There's one time I remember going up there, and somebody had killed one of my calves and slaughtered it out. That's sad, you know. And the weird thing about it is I ran into that guy one time. He told me he did it. Yeah, I'll take a calf from you guys every year. Zan don't care. I used to work for him. I asked Zan about it, and he laughed. He says, "Yeah, he slaughters one about every year, every other year." He said, "But he worked for this company all his life. He doesn't have much money, and he goes up there and he hangs out up there on that mountain. And if anything's wrong, he tells us. So I let him have a calf. It'd been nice if he let me know that. I could tell you some stories. I was up there one time checking my cows, and this guy, I was on a horse, and this guy comes out of the woods, just pops out of the woods and starts to approach me. And he had on a tan brown duck chore coat. It was chilly. I had a coat on too, and chaps and stuff. It was chilly. Um, and he put his hand in his coat pocket. What do you think he got? What do you think he was holding on to in that coat pocket? What do you think he had in there?
Maybe a knife or something.
I would say it was something. I don't think it was a knife. I think it was something that went bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, that was the or
Yeah,
something I
it,
was talking about.
yeah, that's kind of what I thought. And he comes out of them woods, had his hand in his pocket, his right hand in his right coat pocket. And Jasmine, this guy, all you could see of him, you could see his clothes, you could see his eyes a little bit. He had a beard that popped out and was long, had long hair. You see his eyes in between all of his hair. And, I was smart enough not to go jumping him for being on the farm, you know. Uh, but I noticed he had his hand in his pocket. I did the same thing. When I saw him, I stuck my hand in my pocket. I wasn't no fool. I've been chased by wild dogs up there once, and I never did go back up there without some form of protection. Whether it was a rifle in my scabbard or a pistol in my pocket. But, I just casually stuck my hand in my pocket. My other hand was on the reins, sitting on my horn. And I was nice to him. I said, "How you doing today?" He said, "Good." We talked a little bit. And I said, "Well, I'm looking for." I never did ask him what he was doing. I, I said, "I'm looking for my stray cattle. Have you seen them?" He said, "Yeah." He said, they're not here. They're the next holler over. I said, okay, thank you. And I went about my way. And that's all my strays are right there where he said they were. And that happened on several occasions. Now, my suspicions, he had a steel or a pot patch up there somewhere. But when he saw me, if he was up there and he saw me, he would always come down and make sure I didn't go any further. And my cattle weren't around anywhere he was. And one time he called me and said I had cattle on him. So I loaded up the horse, threw it in the trailer, and I went over to his house. And he told me I had cattle up here, and I went down there and got them, and he helped me get them loaded. And we stood around and talked for a while. He was a real nice guy. I got along real good with him. But I never did ask him if he had a steel or a pot patch or anything like that. I didn't want to know. But after the first time, that first meeting with him, neither one of us stuck our hands in our pockets after that. But he was a good guy. But I had some experiences now. It was it was interesting. But like I said, he was a nice guy. But that wasn't. And there were a couple other times I'd go up there and it felt like people were watching me, but I never could see them, never could find them. But you know, I usually had a jacket on, and my hand was usually in my pocket when I felt that feeling. Like it might have done, probably wouldn't have done me much good, but it just, you know, you see things. But anyway, it was interesting. He was a nice guy, though. I liked him. He died a few years back, and the guy that was slaughtering calves, he died too. He was an old man. He was funny. Uh, Once I got to know him, he was a pretty funny guy. All right, uh, enough of my stories. Um, so the uh, the exam is basically going to be on reproduction and genetics. I think I thought about putting vaccinations and stuff on there, and in reality, I could do that, but the recommendations for vaccinations hasn't changed all that much. But um, I didn't put any vaccination questions on there or vaccination schedules because you know again there's going to be some there's general rules of thumb about vaccinating, and we went over those. Um, but they have changed since I've been in college, um, with different vaccines that's come out and timing to try to make it more so you don't have to run the cattle through the chute as much and gather up all your cattle. So that's been a big change with different vaccines and the changing. They've changed a little bit, not a whole lot. You still get pre-breeding vaccines. You still give pre-weaning vaccines, and you give them a booster at weaning time. Um, and we would give vaccines when we branded them or castrated them and worked them before we turned them out on the mountain. Um, we were pretty we were pretty adamant about doing those things. The other thing that we did too, uh, when I was at Stewart's, but other places I worked at haven't done this. We would get those cows in prior to calving, like 60 days prior to calving. And this was a big undertaking because we had 1,500 cows. And we would give them pre-calving vaccines. And I don't think they recommend that much anymore. But we would give them, uh, basically, it was just about, we gave them a blackleg vaccine before calving to boost that immunity in that milk for Clostridium diseases. And, and then we would give the calf uh, a blackleg or Clostridium vaccine there when we worked them, when they're about 2 months of age. Uh, I don't think they recommend doing that pre-calving vaccination now. It's just give that cow, give us Clostridium either when you do pre-breeding or I came here for his pre-breeding uh, pre-check time. Give them a yearly deal for Clostridium, get them vaccinated. But anyway, so sometimes these recommendations change, uh, but it's not hard to find out what the recommendations are. All you got to do is go to the extension website and look and see what their recommendations are. And different parts of the countries have different recommendations for vaccines and mineral supplementation due to different nuances in the country. So, you know, your learning is going to continue even after you get out of school because new research comes out and different changes. They make different recommendations sometimes. Uh, you have any questions about what's going to be on the exam?
No.
Good. What would you like for me to go over the rest of the semester? What else would you like
Uh,
for me to talk about?
I don't really know. Got any suggestions?
Okay. Well, I know we got some people in here that's doing some sheep. One person in here doing some doing a horse project. And I haven't talked a lot about sheep. We talked about horses. Uh, Sheep and goats, uh, they're little, I look at them as little cows. They're ruminants. Uh, and, we can balance our rations. The big thing with sheep is uh, you can't give them mineral cotton. That's poisonous to them. But you still need to give them vaccinations. And I have all that stuff on Blackboard. Also for the horses. Uh, and how to balance horse rations. Sheep rations will be the same as cattle. Uh, and I have the nutrient requirements for sheep up there. And I have an example of how to balance horse rations, or a couple examples. Uh, I Let's see what else we have. The thing with sheep too, you got to be careful of, or you got to be aware of, are parasites. Right now, with the sheep industry and the parasites are really resistant to our anthem minerals or our deworming. So uh, it's uh, it's a challenging situation. So you really have to stay on top of that parasite control and use different chemicals, uh, anthelmintics to kill the worms because of the resistance that we have in them. We're seeing this problem pop up in horses and we're also seeing it in cattle. Ivermectin hit the market. Man, we thought that was the best thing since sliced bread. Ivermectin's a worm medicine, and boy, it worked great. But we've used it a lot, and probably misused it some because now we're seeing some resistance to it, and in sheep we're seeing a lot of resistance to it. Uh, in horses, we've got the same issue. There's this one product of worm medicine in horses that you can feed to them every day to keep them worm free. That ended up causing more problems than it solved. Uh, so I don't like to use that. I never did use that. I was always afraid that would happen. Uh, I'm probably not, the recommendation for horses was to worm them every 6 to 8 weeks. That's changed now. What they recommend for horses is to do a fecal egg count, figure out who the shedders are, and worm those shedders. The same thing with sheep. Do fecal egg counts on sheep and figure out which sheep, which individuals are shedding the eggs, and to do a strategic disease on those. Cattle, they still recommend to worm those calves in midsummer, and backing off on the cow worming. They're again using a strategic, not so much with fecal egg counts, but just strategically looking at certain times of the year. So within cows. So you know, so that's changing as well. Uh, so this is pretty much what I had planned today was to go over, to do a review for the exam on Wednesday. So, do you have any questions?
I can't think of any.
All right. Well, if you don't have any questions, we can call it an early day today, and you can study for your exam on Wednesday.
Okay.
Because I really don't have anything else prepared. I figured we'd hit this and answer questions and go from there. All right. If you have any questions or get confused while you're studying, don't be afraid to give me a call, okay?
Okay.
And that goes for all the online students. So uh, I'll see you tomorrow in HR.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks.